Behind Van Halen's explosive riffs, wild stage antics, and headline-making feuds, one man held it all together, quietly, powerfully, and with more sacrifice than fans ever knew. But his journey wasn't just about bass lines and backing vocals. It was about loyalty tested, credits lost, and a betrayal discovered not with a phone call, but on the internet. In this untold chapter of rock history, you'll learn how early musical foundation Michael Anthony's low-end rhythm carried the band, even when the spotlight never turned his way. One moment in particular changed everything, and it didn't happen on stage. Brace yourself, because what's coming might completely rewrite your view of Van Halen. Early musical foundation Michael Anthony's younger days were shaped by a deep connection to music through his family, particularly his father, Walter Sobolewski, who played the trumpet. Walter's musical background left a strong impression on young Michael, who would often hear his father practicing and performing. This exposure to live, real-world music at home laid the foundation for Michael's growing curiosity about instruments and performance. As a child, Anthony followed in his father's footsteps by learning to play the trumpet. He developed a genuine interest in music during his school years, participating in various music programs. After his family relocated to Southern California in the mid-1960s, he attended Dana Junior High School in Arcadia, where he joined the school's marching band. His participation in the band allowed him to further develop his musical talents in a structured setting, while also introducing him to the experience of group performance and discipline. Even though he was interested in the trumpet all the while, Michael gradually turned to rock music from the age of 13. He shifted his focus to the bass guitar because he wanted to be different from his crowd, most of whom played the guitar or drums. A friend, Mike Hershey, lent him a Fender Mustang guitar, which Anthony modified into a bass by removing 2 strings from it. This was changed to a crucial period in his musical evolution when he made a full commitment to learning the bass. After noticing how talented and dedicated his son was, Anthony's father bought him a victory copy of a Fender Precision bass along with a Gibson amplifier, enabling serious growth in the tools available for Anthony as a musician. Anthony was shaped early in playing bass by his adulation for such great bassists as Jack Bruce of the Cream, John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin, and Harvey Brooks of Electric Flag. While he was a naturally left-handed person, he learned how to play with his right hand, a skill that was his sole identification and displayed its flexibility. Such early influences and his consistent practice enabled him to have a strong technical foundation and a musical ear, which became quite essential during the later Van Halen era. Just as his skills were sharpening, fate tuned its strings for a collaboration that would change rock history. From Snake to Van Halen, Snake and Mammoth during the early 1970s, Michael Anthony immersed himself in the Southern California music scene, performing with several local bands before settling into one that became especially important, Snake. The group was a power trio that blended hard rock with blues influences, and Anthony played bass, while also taking on lead vocal duties. Snake mostly played cover songs from popular rock acts, but also experimented with original material, giving Anthony a platform to hone his performance skills in front of live audiences. It was during this period that Anthony's musical ambitions began to crystallize, and he grew increasingly determined to pursue music as a career. The local music circuit in the San Gabriel Valley proved to be a vital networking hub, and it wasn't long before Snake crossed paths with another up-and-coming band known as Mammoth, which featured brothers Alex and Eddie Van Halen. The two bands sometimes played the same venues, and on one occasion, Snake opened for Mammoth at Pasadena High School. That night, Mammoth's public address system malfunctioned, and Anthony offered to let them use Snake's equipment so the show could continue. This generous and professional gesture left a strong impression on the Van Halen brothers, and it planted the seed for what would later become a life-changing collaboration. Around that time, Mammoth was at a crossroads, as well, what with major changes happening internally. Their bassist Mark Stone had just departed from the group, and now there was an empty slot in the band. Eddie and Alex Van Halen remembered Anthony from earlier shows and decided to invite him to a jam session to see if there was musical chemistry. The session, which reportedly took place in a garage, ended with what the brothers had hoped. At this point, Anthony proved that his energetic bass style and powerful backing vocals were exactly what they had sought as a band. His ability to lock into the rhythm and bring vocal harmony thereby added a new dimension to the group's sound. Wasting no time, the Van Halen brothers wasted little time in inducting him to the band as their new bassist after being very impressed with the synergy. Shortly after this, yet another major shift could be said to have taken place in the group by changing its name from Mammoth to Van Halen, the new name having been necessitated by the fact that another band was already operating under the Mammoth moniker. That new name was reportedly suggested by emphasizing the identity of the two brothers while ushering in a new phase in the development of the band. Anthony maintained a consistent presence both musically and personally, earning a reputation for being dependable and low maintenance compared to the often volatile dynamics among other members. Anthony event he wouldn't completely realize until much later. In 2006, Eddie Van Halen decided to appoint his teenage son Wolfgang Van Halen as his direct replacement for Michael Anthony. The news didn't come as a clear notification to Anthony, but was perceived by him through what he read online or through rumor and speculation among fans. Years later, he spoke at some interviews and revealed that he felt blindsided and hurt by Anthony's side over the whole episode. He said, or it was worse that, after decades of loyalty and contribution to the legacy of the band, there was not even a phone call to say that such a move had been made. He's then emotionally sandbagged because he loses his position in a band he'd built from the ground up, and as a consequence of how far his relationship with Eddie and Alex Van Halen has deteriorated, it gave Colin the makings of an official end to his time with Van Halen, not a decision so much as an erasure. Sammy Hagar collaborations following his departure from Van Halen, Michael Anthony reconnected with longtime friend and former Van Halen frontman Sammy Hagar. Their musical chemistry, forged during the band's Van Hagar era, laid the foundation for multiple successful collaborations. One of their first major projects together after Van Halen was The Other Half, a touring act launched in 2005. The group, which featured Anthony and Hagar performing Van Halen hits from both the Roth and Hagar eras, was enthusiastically received by fans who felt the spirit of the original band lived on through their performances. The name The Other Half was a cheeky nod to their role as the often overlooked halves of Van Halen, and their live shows were a celebration of the music that defined a generation. In 2002, Anthony and Hagar had also joined forces in a short-lived but ambitious supergroup called Planet Us. The band recorded a few tracks, including Psycho Vertigo and Peephole, which were later released on Hagar's 2008 solo album Cosmic Universal Fashion. Although the group never released a full album or completed a tour, it showcased Anthony's continued ability to work alongside some of rock's most accomplished musicians. The collaboration was a testament to his versatility and standing in the music world, even outside of the Van Halen brand. Surprisingly, the most successful of Anthony's ventures besides Van Halen is Chickenfoot, which he formed in 2008. Once again teamed up with Hagar, the band also included the blazing talent of guitarist Joe Satriani and Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer Chad Smith. In 2009, the band released its eponymous debut, booming both in great reviews and sales, debuting inside the top 10 of the Billboard 200. The chemistry and musicianship of the entire band have been widely praised, and Anthony's bass playing and vocal harmonies remain an integral part of their sound. Their sophomore effort, Chickenfoot 3, 2011, only underlined the fact that they were more than a side project, proving yet again that Anthony had plenty of creative fuel left in his tank. In 2014, Anthony teamed up together with Hagar once more, this time in a new band named Sammy Hagar and the Circle, which also features Vic Johnson on guitars and Jason Bonham, son of legendary Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham, on drums. The Circle featured a lot of Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Montrose, and Hagar solo tracks, making for quite a lively yet nostalgic live experience for the fans. The band also released original music, including Space Between, an album that hit number 4 on the Billboard 200 in 2019, which is a testament to their continuing relevance. With such projects which antedate Michael Anthony's gifted hands with guitars playing music, he has shown that his love for music has not waned and that his rock legacy goes much deeper than his Van Halen stint. Cancelled reunion tour following Eddie Van Halen's death in 2020, there was renewed interest among fans, and reportedly within the band's inner circle, in organizing a tribute tour to honor the guitarist's legacy. Talks of a reunion gained traction in 2021 and 2022, with drummer Alex Van Halen reportedly reaching out to former members and collaborators, including Michael Anthony and David Lee Roth, to gauge interest. Joe Satriani was also brought into the conversation as a potential stand-in guitarist. According to Satriani, serious discussions were underway to bring together a lineup that would celebrate the band's history, with Anthony's involvement considered crucial to maintaining authenticity. However, despite early momentum, the plans for the tribute or reunion tour unraveled due to internal disagreements. One of the key points of contention reportedly involved David Lee Roth, who allegedly resisted certain aspects of the tribute format. According to Alex Van Halen and others close to the situation, Roth refused to participate in any concert that would overtly honor Eddie's memory, at least not in the way the rest of the group envisioned. This reluctance created significant tension and stalled progress. The emotional weight of such a tribute, combined with unresolved issues among band members, made coordination difficult, and hopes for a cohesive event began to fade. Matters were further complicated by the ailing health of Alex Van Halen. In 2022, he reportedly suffered a back injury that made it even less likely that he would participate in a physically demanding tour. This left the reunion with Roth backing away and Alex out, with two of its most crucial pylons missing. Michael Anthony later confirmed that he had indeed been contacted, allowing such a film to happen. Her reasoning stemmed from a desire to protect the integrity of Eddie's memory and avoid any dramatized version of his complex life. She expressed concern that Hollywood might distort key aspects of his personality, musical journey, and struggles with addiction, which she felt should not be sensationalized for entertainment. Bertinelli's resistance to a biopic is rooted in deeply personal experiences. As someone who was married to Eddie from 1981 to 2007 and shared a son with him, she witnessed his highs and lows firsthand. She has often spoken candidly about their difficult moments, particularly Eddie's battle with substance abuse, and the toll it took on their relationship and family. For Valerie, the idea of watching those moments fictionalized on screen, even with artistic intent, would be emotionally overwhelming. While she did mention, perhaps jokingly, that Selena Gomez could play her in a movie, she quickly added that she hoped the singer would decline if ever asked. There is a really important part about the families being protective now under the umbrella of Wolfgang Van Halen's career, a personal image as a musician carrying the weight of his father and paving a way all his own. On several occasions, he addressed the pressure of being the son of Eddie Van Halen and how people, fans, and the media around him for comparisons. He has also spoken out against people who shamelessly use his father's name or legacy to gain their own fame. Wolfgang, in interviews, has maintained that honoring Eddie through music as opposed to dramatized movies or public spectacles. This also confirms his mother's stance, and the family stands together in cultivating low-profile dignity for Eddie Van Halen. On the other hand, what really swings her that way is more than suspicion of the industry's further instinct of preserving things emotionally. Because of groundbreaking fame, intense personal conflicts, and even personal tragedies, only a very short while ago, the Van Halens would be raw about Eddie's experience. Valerie has said that the family is still reeling from the effects of his passing in 2020, and a biopic risks reopening wounds that barely have begun to scab over. He has expressed frustration with those who ignore the emotional realities of the band's history, especially following his father's death in 2020. Rather than romanticizing a reunion or a tribute project, Wolfgang has consistently advocated for honoring his father's memory through authenticity and respect, not fan service. Beyond public commentary, Wolfgang has confirmed that there is a vast archive of unreleased Van Halen recordings, sparking speculation about potential posthumous releases. Guitarist Steve Lukather, a close friend of Eddie's and member of Toto, revealed in 2023 that he and Alex Van Halen had been exploring Eddie's vault of recordings. Lukather suggested there may be enough material for future projects, but emphasized that any decisions would be made carefully and with the family's blessing. There is growing interest among the fans for the revival project involving Eddie's unreleased work. However, Wolfgang explicitly stated that anything of that nature would require a delicately handling. As he previously addressed, there are no plans at the moment for a new Van Halen album or tour, and the band can't exist without my dad. Wolfgang stated there could be a way of honoring Eddie, but he seemed clear about not wanting to commercialize his father's legacy. Rather, his stewardship has been cautious and focused on the preservation of Eddie's integrity. Rumors about a tribute or revival have not completely gone away. Joe Satriani has mentioned early discussions involving former band members and collaborators, yet nothing concrete has come to light. For now, Wolfgang is concentrating on his own path musically with Mammoth WVH, where he writes, records, and performs everything himself.